Howdy, folks. Kanaju here, and in the flesh again. So I'm testing out my Streamlabs in preparation of my first live stream this week. We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I thought it'd be really cool to do a tier list. And I've been itching to do some BioShock content lately. As you can tell, got my BioShock shirt, got my BioShock merch, little bit of my collection. I know this is primarily a No Man's Sky channel, but if you were to compare my obsessions for No Man's Sky and my obsessions for BioShock, you might be surprised. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. Let's get right into it. So I'm going to be comparing all the vending machines from the BioShock series. We're talking all the way from BioShock to Infinite and all the DLCs. And I'm going to be presenting these in the order that you encounter them in the game. Hopefully this doesn't crash. My laptop isn't, that powerful. No offense, laptop. So we'll see how this goes. I'm really excited, and excuse me if I get the order of these wrong. We're playing fast and loose with the definition of vending machines as well, so we'll see. But obviously, we're going to start this list off with one of the most iconic of all time. Of course, I'm talking about the Gatherer's Garden. I mean, looking at the design of it, it's a vintage, pretty much gas pump, but it sells plasma. It's one of the most iconic parts of the game. It has, its own little, it has jingles, it has mascots, it has neon. Usually when you see them set up, instead of just being in a corner like other vending machines, they usually have these lights and icons and signs. I mean, they're just really grand. And obviously, we're starting the list off with S tier. So I'm gonna put this over here. Boop. A little S tier Gatherer's Garden. Next up, we have a pneumo tube. Like I said, playing fast and loose with the definition of what a vending machine is. But these are, used to send mail throughout Rapture. Sometimes you'll receive stuff through them, like at the very beginning in Welcome to Rapture. Atlas will send you Eve hypos if you run out of Eve. And you can sort of think of these like mail drop boxes in a sense. But I mean, I've always liked the design of them. They're really clean, real Art Deco. The kind of utilitarian thing that you would see existing in a society at that time. I know different cities at the time are playing with that idea, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in somewhere between C and D. We'll put it here for now, because I'm not entirely sure. We'll see how the rest of the list goes, and I'll put it into one of those spots. So next up we have payphones. You can't really use these in the game. You can interact with them, but I mean, you can't call anyone. They don't charge you, even though they are payphones. These real easy D tier, pretty lame. With that in D tier, I'd say Numo's C tier. Yeah. Alright, next up we have a news vendor. These, again, you can't actually interact with these at all. You can just kind of look in, try and spot a headline. I do like the design though. I really like. It's kind of it's not really a logo, is it? It's like some lightning bolts. It almost looks like a Rapture radio, but it does feel very of the time. It fits pretty well. I'm gonna throw that in. I'm gonna put it in D tier. It's pretty lame. Now, up next is a heavy hitter. Circus of Values, famously voiced by Ken Levine, and probably the most iconic vending machine of the entire series. Actually, it's so iconic. I actually have a one of those original. I don't know if this is showing up or not. One of those original JoJo's Melons labels that the Circus of Values is actually based on. So if that lets you know how obsessed I am. But I love the jingle, love the design. Like a lot of things in BioShock, they feel a little bit like video game vending machines, if you know what I mean. And we'll see that coming up. But Circus of Values feels very much like the kind of thing you would see in a city at that time. I love the design. I love how it has these little knobs like a real vending machine. So you'd put the coin in, pull the knob, and you'd get whatever you purchased. It's got the pipes, for the jingle. It's fantastic. I mean, it just looks like a real vending machine, and it's iconic. I mean, there's nothing like it in any other game. So that is an easy S tier. I mean, come on. All right, health stations. These, they're not as iconic, but they do fit the era really well. They feel like right out of the 1950s. They have that kind of, I don't know how to explain it, almost like naval aesthetic to them, which fits an underwater city, honestly. They're pretty helpful in a pinch. They're really great for hacking. They're pretty useful, but design-wise, And then when you hack them, they get that green light, and I just feel like it kind of looks ugly with the green light. So I'm gonna put these in B tier. They're pretty useful. They fit the era, but they're not that iconic. All right, El Amo Bandito. So back when people used to use forums more often, I used to go on the 2K forums, and my profile picture was El Amo Bandito because I was like, it kind of looks like me, right? Okay, maybe not, but yeah, I've always enjoyed El Amo Bandito. Yeah, it's a bit of a stereotype, so yeesh. But as far as in-game vendors go, it's also pretty iconic, less so than the clown. I would put this in A tier. Um, as you know, it sells weapon or it sells ammo. It sells weapons in the DLC for BioShock Infinite, but generally speaking, it sells rarer ammo types than what you can get in most Circus of Values, usually. So here we have Gene Bank. Now, the Gene Bank, I absolutely love the design of this. So originally, obviously, it was the Plasma Quick machine, and this little slot over here, instead of having 3 bottles, it just had 2. And here's where you would insert the atom to pay for it, because it used to cost money to actually switch your genes. And this is where you would equip new plasmids and stuff, which is pretty cool. So these bottles were actually like the Plasma Quick bottles you would pick up, and the idea was you pick up these bottles when you're going around, but then you would go to this machine, plug them in, pour the atom in, which you needed to, rewrite your genes. Then you put your arm there. It would use the atom with whatever plasmid you inserted, and that's how you would, you know, splice your genes. It was pretty cool. With the way everything changed, I guess it doesn't really make sense. But it's still a really cool design. I love the icon. I love the music that plays when you're passing by. It's iconic. It's Art Deco. It's BioShock. So we're putting this in. Should it go A or S tier? I'm putting it S tier. You know what? This is my list. I can do whatever I want. Alright, next we have the bot shutdown panel. Yeah, like I said, we're pushing the limits of what's a vending machine, but on the wiki, it's listed as a vending machine. And by the way, credit to the BioShock wiki. It's where I pulled all these images from. It would have taken me a lifetime to get a screenshot of every single vending machine from every single game in the series. So, thanks to them. I'll put a link in the description. Bot shutdown panel. I mean, there's not much to these. You just pay a bit of money and shut down the bots. Pretty useful. Not that cool looking, to be honest. I'm putting it at C tier. You can't even hack them, you know what I mean? You could in the pre-release version, if you saw the Hunting the Big Daddy video. You could hack them at that point, but not in the final game. So, here we have Power to the People by Fontaine Futuristics. These are awesome. Whenever you see these in a game, you're getting excited because this is where you're upgrading your weapons. The design of it, I always thought was kind of meh. Like the banner, Power to the People, yeah, that's pretty cool. The 2 weapons is pretty cool. But then just like this random, it looks like a trash can turned on its side. I don't know. I didn't really care for that design, but I guess how would you really create a universal type of workbench that automatically upgrades your weapons. It's a tough design uh, dilemma. So for function, obviously this would be like S class, but for design, I'm putting this in B. You know, it doesn't really have any jingles. It's a power up, essentially, in the form of a vending machine. So next up we have You Invent. Now You Invent is, first off, the design of it, I love it. I love the light bulb icon. I love the the little lightning bolt in the logo. I love the Art Deco design of the cabinet. I love how you can just see the mechanics of it, how you're plugging in all these ingredients and then, you know, turning a crank and then something comes out. It doesn't make any practical sense, but, you know, it makes like dream logic sense. And this is one of those machines that I saw in the original strategy guide before I ever bought the game, and seeing this made me, you know, fall in love with the game immediately. Just the aesthetic of it, and it's part of why I became a graphic designer too. I just wanted to design cool things like this. Plus, the functionality of it's pretty cool. You can craft unique ammo. You can craft unique gene tonics. It's pretty neat. And then once you do enough research, you're actually able to craft double the quantity. So I'm gonna put this in A tier. What's stopping it from being S tier is that they didn't put it in the second game, not even like a destroyed version, and you don't see it at all in the DLC for Infinite. So yeah, it only lives in the first game. It's one of my favorite parts of the first game. But I think a lot of people probably forgot it was in the game, whereas like no one's gonna forget Circus of Values or Gatherer's Garden. So put that in A tier because I love it, but it's not as iconic. So here we have the jukebox. You'll see a bunch of these around Rapture. Most of them are broken. Some of them will play part of a record and then kind of like go and then stop working. Um, Personally, I wished you could have like paid like $10 or something, and then it just plays a song off the soundtrack, because I was always trying to get more music to play, and I feel like there's just not enough when you're exploring. So this would have been really great if they had added that function. Unfortunately, they didn't. So it's a good design. I mean, it looks like a jukebox, but I'm putting this in C tier since it doesn't really function the way I would like it to, as in just, you know, play a song when I put a coin in. All right, here we have Epstein the Swami. This is one of those, you first see it in Fort Frolic, and he just gives the worst fortunes. Like, you'll put $1 in and it'll be like, better luck next time, you know? It's like, this is pretty funny, but he's always pretty pessimistic. You always feel like you wasted your money. Um, but it is good for a laugh, so I'll put it in B tier. Why not, right? Alright. Here we have a slot machine. These are pretty fun. You find them in the first game. You only find them in Fort Frolic, and they're actual functional slot machines. You know, they indicate what the prizes are on the side there, and they actually function that way. So you can make some money, lose some money. Not bad. They look Art Deco. They look functional. I like the mix of wood and metal. I'll put them in B tier. You know, while they're a very good example of Art Deco design, they're not iconic. They're not branded the way like Circus of Values is. It's just a generic slot machine. All right, so now we're in BioShock 2 territory. Which, just a note, as far as BioShock 2 is concerned, they didn't really add any new vending machines. Like, you'll see there's going to be 4 here from BioShock 2, but they're not really vending machines. Like, this is just an Eve Hypo dispenser. You know what I mean? Which looks pretty good, looks pretty Art Deco. All it does is dispense free Eve, so you don't run out during the tutorial. So, putting this in C tier. Doesn't, I mean, it looks fine, but it doesn't do much. It's not really a vending machine. And it's just not as iconic as anything from the first game. Here we have a fuel station. You see a few of these throughout the game. The most interactive one is in Popper's Drop, because you have to use your drill to get through some debris, so they have to make sure you have, you know, drill fuel. And it's cool. I wish they'd put them throughout more levels, just to encourage use of the drill. I think that would have been pretty cool. Not to mention, it's just the neon sign is nice. The typography is cool. The the gas pump is pretty sweet. You see them underwater sometimes, which is pretty cool. Um, yeah, they feel very much of the time, because there's a lot of back to the real world. There's a lot of automotive uh, infrastructure being added to the country at this time, highways and service stations and stuff like that. So it's cool to see that echoed in Rapture. But again, you don't really see too much of it in the game. I'm gonna put it at B because it was like personally I always loved it, but it's so limited in scope. Tool dispenser, pretty much the same as the Eve dispenser, but you know, dispenses hacking tools. Not much to say on this one. Putting it also in C tier. And then the last of the BioShock 2 vending machines, which again, you would think they would have added more to the game just for variety's sake, but here we have Pop and Gun, which is just like something you'd see on the surface. It's just a gumball machine. Put a quarter in, turn the little knob, and gumballs come out. Nothing much to it. Pretty generic looking. Even the label isn't that impressive. I'm putting this in D tier. It's pretty lame. Not interactive. Alright. So now we're moving on to Columbia. BioShock Infinite. And here we have Kinetoscope. Word of the Prophet. These are pretty cool. I love the idea of these little, Nickelodeons. I wish it was a little bigger on the screen, but I get the idea. You're kind of like looking into a thing, but at the same time, it just kind of feels like they they didn't want to export higher quality images to save on disk space, but whatever. Uh, I'm gonna put these in B tier. They're pretty cool. Some of them are pretty unique. Sometimes they play Scott Joplin music, and they're really good at telling you more about the world. Actually, I'm gonna put these in A tier because they feel like they're of the era. There's a whole lot of them, and you always want to interact with them because they're always showing you something new. So yeah, I think that's A tier. Next up, we have Veni, Vidi, Vigor. However that's pronounced. So I will say I was not a big fan of the vending machine designs in BioShock Infinite. Like, I know they were trying to go for something different. They didn't just want to repeat what they did before. But the automatons, I don't know, they didn't really make sense. Then when you look at this interface, there's just like a single knob. And so it's like, how do you select your product? And then you might be saying, oh, well, it's like you just tell the automaton what you want to order. But at the same time, it's like voice to speech, like we barely have that down nowadays. And this is taking place in like the turn of the century Victorian era. So the idea that they had like voice to speech back then, it just seems incredible. So yeah, these never looked like functional vending machines to me. They looked anachronistic, in my opinion. I didn't care for them at all. So that being said, Veni Vidi Vigor, also a weird name for a vending machine. Like, I get the play on words, but he had some good quips. Nah, nah. You see, the other thing is it would have made more sense if there was like maybe like a projector or something, since like you see those little films with the. Yeah, I don't care for this one. I'm putting it C tier. Sorry. All right, here we have Assault's Machine, also from BioShock Infinite. Now this one, I like this one a little bit better. It's very straightforward. It just says salt. It has a very good profile. The color is good, and it just feels like almost like a butler or something, right? Like you walk up to it, it extends its arm, gives you some smelling salts or whatever, and then retracts his arm. It looks like it would function. It has a cask right here, you know, it has a tank full of salts, a tube running to it. It just, this one seems like you could realistically have that in 1912 because it's not like some advanced AI. It's just you walk up to it, theoretically press a button or whatever, and it just goes psh. Plus, it just looks cool. The salt's iconography, it's just stronger. B tier for sure. Now here, again, this isn't really a vending machine, but like the admissions automatons, the admissions automatons. There we go. Yeah, these are listed on the wiki as a vending machine. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but they do pretty much, they're structurally the same as the vending machines, which again, there's no buttons or anything, just a single knob to turn. So you can't really interact with these other than the first one where you possess it. So I'm going to put this one down in D tier because it's even lamer. But at the same time, it does make more sense to have a person. So, okay, fine. D tier. Now, here we have dollar bill. Now, while I said I don't really enjoy the design of these, dollar bill is a little bit better than the last one. And that's because you have lights on the sides here, which, you know, are a little more eye-catching. This feels like it seems like the kind of thing you'd see on a boardwalk, I'll put it that way. And while it still has the same issues with like not seeming like a functional vending machine, it has a better play on words, dollar bill, you know what I mean? It's voiced by Ken Levine, it has some quips. It seems more coherent. Veni, Vidi, Vigor just seems like they didn't know what to do for the for the vending machine there. So I'll put this one in B tier. Next we have Minutemen's Armory, which pretty much reuses the same stuff as Dollar Bill, but has a Minuteman automaton. I didn't really care for this one. I do like the theming of it, but again, I'm just not a fan of these machines. I do like the patriotic theming though. Oh, I'll go ahead and put it. I'll put it in B tier. Why not? All right. So here we have Mendelssohn's kinematic couture, I think is what it's called. I've covered the sign because there was some graffiti on there that I'm not putting in my YouTube video, so excuse the blackout squares there. But this is a vending machine you see around Columbia, but it's never functional. And it was originally meant to be, you know, used in the game. And I think at one point it was even going to be like Father Franklin's couture, kinematic couture. It was supposed to be like repurposed, which was also a cool concept. But you never see it functional in the game. But I actually love the design of this. Because unlike the other ones where it's like you have no idea how it would work, here you have a big old box which houses all the machinery. You have the automaton, but it has you know, its own base. It has more space for the machinery in the back. And then on the side here, you also have like buttons for, you know, selections and stuff like that. So this just looks like a more mechanical, more believable type of vending machine that you would see in that era. It's a shame they don't use them in the game. I think that would have helped the gear system a lot. But yeah, I also like the design of it. I like the measuring tape going all the way around. I like the green color, the icon on the side. It just, and then again, the automaton feels like it's a way to pull you in to sort of supplement the actual machine versus the other ones where it feels like you're actually ordering from the machine, which doesn't, from the automaton, which doesn't make sense. So I just like this one a lot better. I know it's not functional, but I'm putting it in A tier because they really should have put that in the game. Sorry, folks. Alright. Here we have Duke and Dimwit's arcade cabinets. Now, I know it says Dimwit and Duke. I just Duke and Dimwit sounds better in my opinion. But anyways, you have three of these. You find these at the arcade in Battleship Bay. And I always felt like this was like sort of an unfinished area because it seems like they should have had like arcade cabinets from the time. Like, they had like mechanical baseball games and were even like similar to like pinball, pachinko, those type of machines you could have added, but instead they just have these things where you press a button and like these two dolls do like the same animation and it just has different recording over each of them. It's a bit disappointing. Um, I mean, even if you look at that board, it looks like there should have been like buttons on those arcade cabinets, but they just have one button in the middle. Anyways, that's not important. The design, really nice. They really fit the era. Again, they look like something that would exist in that time with the wood. They fit the design of the city. I like that they have mascots. They're kind of iconic. They're recognizable. I'm going to put these in B tier because they're still disappointing, but they're not bad. All right, next up we have discount dollar bill. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, like, I didn't include variations of the other machines. Yeah, but I don't know, I always viewed discount dollar bill as like its own variation, mostly because it has this sign right here. But discount dollar bill, you only encounter one in the game. I'm gonna put this one at B tier. It's as good as dollar bill, let's be real. Now, this one is from the DLC, Clash in the Clouds. It's Columbia, Sundry, and Supply. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, it just kind of looks like a jerry-rigged version of the other vending machines. And it does. But at the same time, this looks like a more believable vending machine than the other ones. You can see the products on display. They're behind glass. You have light bulbs. You have, again, you can see how it functions, right? It's sort of like a loot box. You never know what you're going to get. But you could see that working here because if you put a coin in the slot, you turn the knob, and one of those items is going to fall down the chute, and then you pick it up. Like, it just looks very functional. Whereas, like, where's the stock held in the other vending machines, right? I don't know. Whereas here you can very clearly see stock. I don't know. I wish they'd put more vending machines like this in the game. They're just really cool looking. I'm putting this in A tier. I love it. Another Colombian machine. This one you only see in a tear. And it's a non-functional doctor vending machine. Now, I could have seen this one actually working, believe it or not. Of all the automatons, this one kind of makes sense because with health kits, you really only have one type of health kit in the game. So it would have been you put the coin in, turn the knob, and a health kit comes out. That actually makes sense. And on top of that, the iconography, I mean, it's like a white machine. You have the medical icon. I forget the name of it. The guy's dressed like a doctor. I just think it would have been a much stronger imagery than like the Veni, Vidi, Vigor type thing. But unfortunately, this one's not in the game. It's some form of cut content. So we'll never get to know what its personality was or the jingle. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in B tier. Alright, so now we're on to the DLC, Burial at Sea, where we have a new version of the newsstand. And they actually have like 3 different ones, but I actually like this one better than the other newsstand. The other one looks kind of dirty, kind of lame. This one looks a lot cleaner, a lot cooler. I like that you can actually read the newspaper on this one. Yeah, I like this one a lot better. It feels Art Deco. Putting this one in C tier. Looks cool, not functional. Alright, second to last, we have these slot machines, which you also find on High Street. And I think these are lamer than the ones from the first game. I understand like these would be easy to manufacture. You have the sort of like cast metal here, but you could probably see it on screen because of the way like the game rendered it. It was kind of low quality texture, It's just like a normal map type thing. It's just kind of hard to read. The details look a little messy. It just, I don't know. It's cool, but it's not that cool. Putting this one in D tier. And again, it's just generic. It's not branded. It's just a generic slot machine. Then the final vending machine is Need to Know Theater. I actually like these a lot. The design is really nice. It looks like a vintage jukebox mixed with kinetoscope. You have the little projected part that shows you, what's playing. And when you actually watch them, it has like a very period-inspired, voice. It says, "Are you in the know?" It's very iconic. So I like the design of these. I think they work really well. And what I also like about them is that they're used not just for exposition, but like with the Sander Cohen ones, they're showing some of his artistic side outside of paintings, which is really cool to see. So I'm putting this in A tier. That's really nice. All right, so that's our final tier list. Let's take a look here. You know, looking at this as a whole, I actually feel like Payphone F tier and Pop and Gum F tier. This is more like, well, yeah, Pneumo Tube is more like D tier. Security is more like D tier. And this is more like D tier. Because what I'm sort of getting at is a lot of these just feel like generic, unbranded. Boop. Those are C tier. The Eve and tool dispensers, they feel very of Rapture. They're very Art Deco, very mechanical, very metal. And again, what was the word I used? Kind of like naval. But are they as good as Veni, Vidi, Vigor? Not really, if I'm being honest. Okay, those are also D tiers. Alright, folks. C tier. Actually, putting this newsstand back up here. What are you gonna do about it? No, please don't unlike. Please don't unlike the video if you already liked it, or dislike it if you haven't. Alright, so here's my final tier list, maybe. That looks pretty strong. I mean, S tier, you have Gatherer's Garden, iconic. Circus of Values, iconic. Gene Bank, iconic. A tier, you have the classics, the heavy hitters, as well as some odd ones. Actually, these ones from Infinite, the Couture, the Sundry and Supply, and the Need to Know Theater. I wasn't expecting to see those so high up, but I do like their design. B tier, not bad, not great. C tier, weak, a little weak. D tier is like eh. They just kind of blend in, and then F tier is like really lame. So that's my tier list. So that's my tier list for all the vending machines in the BioShock series. If you click this, I'm assuming you found it interesting, but if not, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you would choose differently. What are your S tier vending machines? Which one's your favorite? Which ones did you dislike? Did I leave one off the list? I mean, I'm pretty sure I included all the vending machines, but maybe you think gramophones should count or something. I don't know. Or Vita chambers. Those, again, they don't sell you anything. No one else can really use them. I guess they're kind of like Numos, but Numos are like a public drop box. Don't overthink it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more random videos, deep dives on specific parts of video games, why not subscribe to this channel? I'm always doing deep dives on No Man's Sky, deep dives on Assassin's Creed, and now BioShock. Oh, and don't forget, this week I'm doing my first live stream. Probably Wednesday, but we'll see. Keep an eye on my community tab for the latest. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting me. Let me know what you thought of this format. I've never done anything like this before, obviously. The audio quality might suck. The video editing might be bad. Actually, I'm probably losing frames right now. I actually have no idea. So we'll see how this turns out. Thanks for giving it a shot, though, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!